Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. A lot of recruiting talk surrounding this USC program over the last couple of days and weeks. We are going to continue to talk about this USC program as it relates to the recruiting trail. We've seen a lot of fireworks the last couple of days. I fully believe that we're going to see a lot of fireworks the next couple of weeks and months. But we are about a week out from spring practice kicking off. Want to circle back to this football team going into 2025 and specifically want to focus on some football players that I think are flying under the radar going into spring practice. And look, the conversation around USC, it gravitates towards the stars, right? Eric Gentry at linebacker, Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon at wide receiver. There are a lot of other players that I think are really good that we don't really talk about all that much during the offseason. Who are the 5 most underrated football players for USC going into 2025? That's what I want to get into today. Before we get into it, as always, just a massive shout out. And as always, the USC fans, it's been really fun breaking down the commitments the last couple of days. Been really fun talking about where this program's going on the recruiting trail. The amount of support y'all show the boys in the middle of February as we talk this football program. I have a blast doing it. The amount of support means the world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. And I want to start with Jay Fair, wide receiver. Jay Fair is not being talked enough about it. And the conversation with this wide receiver room is, look, we know we got 2 guys in Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, 2 of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten going into 2025. 0 question marks about it. The conversation to me with this USC wide receiver is like, who steps up outside of Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon? Because look, they're going to get a lot of attention going into 2025. They're going to produce a lot, but they're going to get a lot of attention, which is going to allow a lot of other pass catchers to get some opportunities in some favorable matchups. The question is, who's going to step up? Jay Fair, to me, if you told me that Jay Fair at the end of the year for USC in 2025 was the 3rd leading pass catcher for USC, I would not be surprised at all. It's important to remind ourselves with Jay Fair that coming over from Auburn, I mean, he was one of the most productive pass catchers in that Auburn offense in 2023. I believe had the 2nd most targets in that offense. Now, coming to USC, you didn't hear as much as I think we expected from him in 2024. I think a large portion of that was you're paying Zachariah Branch all this money. There's a lot of buzz around him going into 2024, and it felt like Lincoln Riley and this offensive coaching staff kind of forced Zachariah Branch on the football field and really forced him into kind of being productive. They're kind of trying to jam him into that offense, if that's probably the best way to sum that up. When Jay Fair was on the football field, I thought good things happened. Now, is Jay Fair going to go out there and catch for 1,000 yards in 2025? No, I don't think so. But I do think he can be a very productive 3rd or 4th option for this USC team in the passing attack. The struggle with Jay Fair here is does a lot of the same things with that Mekhi Lemon does, working out of the slot, really good after the catch, can separate in those short intermediate portions of the route tree. The thing that I look at is, look, I think Mekhi Lemon is multidimensional. I think there's a lot of different things you can do with Mekhi Lemon to allow Jay Fair to get on the football field. And if you're asking me right now, who's that 3rd wide receiver that you trust the most right now, it's probably Jay Fair. And that's not me saying Xavier Jordan's not a good pass catcher. That's not me saying that some of these true freshmen coming in can't produce, because I think they can. But as we sit right now, if you were to ask me to predict who's the 3rd best pass catcher or the 3rd most reliable pass catcher right now on this football team, it's probably Jay Fair. But nobody really wants to talk about him. I'm excited to see what we hear about Jay Fair in spring practice. Going to number 2, let's talk about Alani Noah. Look, he took his lumps as a redshirt freshman in 2024. There's no doubt about it, especially early in the season. I thought very similar to how we talked about Elijah Page. Alani Noah got better on the inside as well. Go back to that Texas A&M game in the bowl game. I thought he was phenomenal, specifically in the run blocking department. I think he got a lot more comfortable in terms of what his responsibilities are. It felt like he was thinking a lot, which is not too surprising for a redshirt freshman. Thought he got a lot more comfortable out there. Thought he was a lot more physically imposing. And look, USC is going to lean on the run game in 2025. At least I think they should, and I think they will. You saw them do that towards the end of the year as well. Alani Noah is a big part in that run game. He is a people mover on the offensive line. He is really good pulling around to the play side. He can down block extremely well as well. I'm a big fan of Alani Noah. And when you talk about a guy like Alani Noah, look, he was only a redshirt freshman in 2024. He's only getting better as a full. This ain't no fifth-year guy going into his sixth year. You know he's what he is. Alani Noah is still progressing and still getting better. I think he's become a little bit better of an athlete, ideally, heading into 2025 as well. Big fan of Alani Noah on the inside. And it's one of those positions that, like, when you don't do your job and you struggle, it is clear as day and you're going to get called out. When you start doing your job, nobody really talks about you, right? If Hassan Longstreet throws a 9-ball to Jacoby Lane for a touchdown, Hassan Longstreet, great throw. Jacoby Lane, really good catch. Two really good football players. Nobody talks about the pass protection holding up. Thought Alani Noah got a lot better, and not enough people talked about it. Big fan of Alani Noah going into 2025, and I'll stick on the offensive line, talk about Janouri Reed. This was huge. This, to me, outside of the defensive line additions, might have been my favorite addition that USC made in the portal. Replacing a guy like Jonah was not going to be easy at the center position. I don't know if you'd want any other center than Janouri Reed in the portal to do so, because not only is he a really good football player that has 2 years of starting experience at Syracuse at the Power 4 level, extremely smart football player. You can tell they relied on him to set up protections a lot. He was really good identifying late blitzers and kind of those stunts and games up front. I think he can be the glue to kind of a retooled USC offensive line where not only do you have to replace a guy like Jonah, you're working in a new right tackle. You're working a new guard with Emmanuel Pregnon moving on from the program. To me, not only a really good football player and reliable center in kind of that scope, but in terms of the glue on the offensive line, really like this kid and what he can provide to USC, and probably going to be somebody that we don't talk about a ton, but is going to be a really, really important piece on this offensive line. Going to number 4, let's talk about Devin Tompkins. Gritty. This dude, and what excites me about Devin Tompkins is he's just getting better as a football player. When he came to USC, it was former basketball player, kind of a good long athlete who wasn't all that good of a football player, but was an athlete you wanted to bet on. Didn't really know where you wanted him, out on the edge or on the inside, kind of settled on the inside, was playing significantly undersized, quietly, played over 400 snaps for USC on the middle of that defensive line. Now, I don't know if Devin Tompkins starts in 2025 because you have some new guys coming in, guys like Jakeem Stewart, Keyshawn Silver, Jamal Jarrett. As a rotational player, Devin Tompkins can be a real positive. And if you were to ask, Coach Henny or Dan Lynn, if you want 5 more Devin Tompkins, I guarantee you they'd say yes. And again, I think he's getting better as a football player as he continues to fill out that 6'5" frame. But man, did he really showed some development, and he really showed just some grittiness. And that's something that we want to see from USC over the next couple of years. I think Devin Tompkins kind of showed you that. What does he look like when he gets up to 300 pounds in the 2025 year? That length and that athleticism, playing at the size you need to be at in the Big Ten. I'm excited to see what Devin Tompkins can be. And again, nobody's really going to talk about him because we're going to talk about Keyshawn Silver and Jakeem Stewart and Jamal Jarrett. Like, a lot of fun names to talk about. Keep an eye on Devin Tompkins. Don't let him get lost in the shuffle, if you will, going into spring ball. Last one, Anthony Lucas. This kid, I don't think we'd be talking about an underrated player if he didn't get hurt. Right? Anthony Lucas was I think, on his way to having a breakout year for USC in 2024 before the injury. Kind of a unique college experience for Anthony Lucas, where he joined that Texas A&M team in 2022 that was just a disaster. Came over to USC, felt like he just never should have been playing more under that Alex Grinch defense in 2023, but wasn't. It was a guy that we heard he was dominating in spring practice and in fall camp, and then just didn't play for whatever reason in the fall. Has another good offseason. Played really well in his third year, second year at USC, third year in college football. Goes down with the injury. Another year with Coach Henny, another year in the strength and conditioner. I think he's a guy that you're talking about who can step up on the edge and give USC that pass rush that they lacked a little bit in 2024. It's Anthony Lucas, and that edge rusher room is exciting, right? Shelby going into year 3, Anthony Lucas going into year 4, Cam Fountain going into year 2. Now, I think USC might need to add another body in the transfer portal because those are really the only 3 edge rushers I look at and say I trust a lot. But I like those 3, and I think they all have some high upside. And if a few of them can reach that upside in 2025, you're going to see a significantly better pass rush than you saw for USC in 2024. And that's important because you look at USC, and we've talked about this a lot. That pass rush really struggled with their front four. And Danlin had to rely on a lot of blitz packages to get home at the quarterback. If you give Danlin the ability to rush the passer with just 4 and drop 7 in coverage, you're going to see an improvement from this USC defense. We'll sign out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. A lot of fun recruiting talk, a lot of fun spring practice talk over the next couple of days and weeks. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.